yeah, to introduce myself, I'm Heleen Cronj. I'm from South Africa. What I do is called genetic brain profiling. So we do an assessment where we determine what is your brain dominance, as well as your eyes, your ears, your hands, and your feet. So once we know that, we know how you react under normal circumstances, but especially what happens to you when you're in stress mode, because that is when we're struggling and we can't be the best possible person that we can be. So in this little time that I have, I'm going to talk a little bit about the left and the right side of the brain. So if I talk about left brain and right brain, please, I know we only have one brain with two hemispheres, but it's just for ease of reference that we just talk about left brain and right brain. And I know there's been lots of conversations between people about, is there really a dominance in one side? But in the years that I've been doing this and the assessment, clearly there is a visible difference. But at the end of the day, we would like everybody to use both sides of the brain. So if we quickly have a look just to see what's happening on each side, we will see on the left-hand side, that is where we take all our pictures and we take all that information in, as well as where our memories. And then those processes, methods, procedures, formulas, where we control and check. And then our vocabulary, as well as our musical knowledge. On the right-hand side again, that's where we visualize and design, conceptualize, comprehension, analyze, interpret, compare, evaluate, distinguish, criticize, and motivate. Also, emotion is on the right-hand side of the brain. And then there where we have musical creativity and just sing and make our own song. But it's so important that we use both sides, because as you can see, vocabulary is on the left-hand side, but it's not helping us if we just know a word, but we don't comprehend, understand that word. So that is the very big importance that we must use both sides of the brain. Now, just to give you a little bit more information on the different hemispheres. So what does the left side do? They're conscious, they're cautious, and much more structured. They're naturally good at meticulous administration and planning procedures. Good at procedures and processes. What do they need? They need clear instructions, routine and structure. It's those people that constantly ask who, what, why, when, where, how. They love asking these questions because it's very important for left brain dominant people to know exactly what is going to happen, when is it going to happen, and how is it going to happen, because then they feel safe and they know what to do. So they like the structure, they're comfortable in the structure, and if they have that structure, they can be the best they can be. Now, what stresses them? Unpredictable settings, change, and especially sudden change. So it's not to say left brainers can't adjust to change. It's just they need a longer time to adjust to the change. It's not just 1, 2, 3. The right brainers can quickly change direction. It's much easier naturally for them. So also, if they don't have an undefined role or unclear, if they do have an undefined role or unclear expectations, that is what stresses them. So, and also situations that does not allow time for processing and planning. So if you're a left brain dominant person and you don't really like change, you know the processes and procedures, it's very important that you structure your life so that you know exactly what is going to happen so that you don't go out of that structure. So The left side of the brain is wonderful for invention because that is where we have all the detail and the planning and putting, because there's a lot involved in getting your invention out there. So it doesn't just help you to have this wonderful idea. You need to have structure and planning of how you're going to do everything. And that's where the left brain is very important. So let's have a look at the right brain side. Very creative. That is where we visualize and design and conceptualize. The right brain is like surprises, and they like doing things their own way. Sometimes they're impulsive, but they lose interest quickly when things become repetitive. They need flexibility and routines. And adults, right brainers, they like, or they actually need, every 18 months, they need a new challenge. So what is great, if we're talking about inventing, it's a constant working on new things, new ideas. So that is wonderful and great for the right side of the brain. And the right side of the brain would be happy to work it out and happy to think all these lovely ideas. What stresses right brain dominant people? Predictive and repetitive activities, administrative tasks. So right brainers don't really like that admin, but right brainers need to realize you also need to do administration to have everything in control. The right brainers struggle a bit to finish tasks. So they will have this wonderful ideas and start getting things in place, but as soon as there's things that's like slowing them down, or there's a few repetitive administrative things that they still need to do, sometimes they'll just leave it. So that's when they must grab into the left side of their brain, who's the finisher. And they must take that side and use it and get themselves to finish the project, because that's very important. Okay, the right brainers also love to procrastinate. They will leave everything till the last minute. So it's not always to say they won't finish, but they will put themselves under so much pressure. And then maybe before presentation, they have to like work through the night so that they can finish their presentation for the next day. Okay, so what can we do to have whole brain function? Because that is what we do want to do, especially when we need to invent, because we need both the great things about both sides. Movement. Okay, kids out there, please. Technology is great and technology is wonderful, but please, you need to move. Still go outside, play, do sports. You have to move. When you're working, you will see I've got like an exercise ball here. You get nice ones on little chairs these days. So sit on an unstable chair, because movement helps keeping both sides of the brain active and busy. You also get what we call a wiggle seat that you can just place on a normal chair, and that just gives you that little bit of movement. And unfortunately, a lot of right brain kids, and I can tell you a lot of inventors are right brain people, because they invent, they think, they get all these ideas. But when they stress, it's like the left brain switches off. Okay, but movement helps them. So when they do in school, or if you're studying, please sit on an unstable chair or the ball so that you have this movement. The other thing that's very, very important is breathing exercises. Now, one great thing to do before you start thinking of your invention, so that you can be fully alert and you can have both sides, the left and the right side of the brain, a wonderful thing to do is what we call a hookup. So as you can see the little guy there, he takes his arms forward and crosses it in close to his body, and then you breathe in deeply. Hold it in a bit. You must breathe through your nose, hold it in a bit, and then you release the air like through a straw, but straw, like in short puffs, like an. Okay, and you do that 6 times. It is amazing, so that your heartbeat goes down. Because say, for instance, you were very excited and you were playing outside and your heart is beating fast, the probability is there that you sit only with one side of your brain because the other one switched off. Okay, and just by breathing, it will slow down the heartbeat and you can be effective as that you can be. And this is great and wonderful, not only for the kids, but for us as adults as well. So yes, that is then my little part today to share to you the importance of whether you're left brain dominant or whether you're right brain dominant, to grab both sides, to use that so that you can be the best possible you can be. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing, Heleen.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, Heleen, this is actually, I'm a student of mind sciences, so this really pleased me, and because I am into this learning neuroscience and all that stuff. And when you were talking about invention and innovation and how actually brain supports innovation, nowadays it's about brain network theories. So I'm more into learning the integrated approach of brain, as you're so right. We cannot actually operate on one side of the brain, and if we do, so the more we do it, the more we're dependent upon one. I mean, we're just using half of it. I mean, so the more we integrate it in, I mean, the more we try to use the network theory. I mean, it just, interestingly, as you were just talking about vocabulary in one part, so the usage is in another part. So if the comprehension is in another part, so it's all about the integration together and wonderful techniques that you have shown people. And there's one that I would like to add: have water. I mean, water is something that helps the brain plasticity and liquidity, helps people. I mean, right after 1 hour, you have to take 1 sip to 2 sips of water at must, to actually focus your attention, or else you just drop with your attention span. So lovely, Heleen, for letting our young ones know how to balance their right and left hemisphere of brain.
Wonderful.
Actually, we have a new guest host that has joined us. Gia, would you like to introduce yourself? And then if you have any questions or comments, please. No, we don't hear you. You're muted. Try it again. This happens every time we have to go through. It's always technology. I love how oops. Yes?
Can you hear me?
Yes, slightly.
Okay. So I am Jia. I am from India. I study in grade 5. I am 10 years old and I like art.
And I have seen Gia do many things. I think she uses all 3 parts of her brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Gia, what do you think about those comments about the talk about left and right brain?
Yeah, I learned something new because I didn't know that we had 2 parts of our brain. And yeah, so, and I also learned that it is important to use both the parts equally.
Wonderful. That is great.
So do you like sitting still or do you like moving around and doing things?
I like moving around and doing things because I'm not very good at sitting still.
Oh, wonderful. That is absolutely great. And I am looking forward later today. I will be discussing the left and the right eye. So I'm really looking forward to that.
The left and
So
the right
Heleen,
eye?
can you just help Gia do that exercise that you were telling us to do in the
Really?
presentation?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah. So we can all do it
Okay.
together.
Sure.
So what you have to do is you stretch your arms in front of yourself.
Okay. So I hope our laptops are safe with us.
Cross over, and then you bring it towards your chest.
Okay.
Okay. Hold it. You put your tongue against your palate, so it's like stuck there on top, and then you breathe in through your nose. Deep, you hold it in, and then when you breathe out, you just use little puffs. And you can actually feel your whole body is relaxing if you do that. So
And we have to do in 6 puffs, right? Yeah.
6 times is great to do it. Do you think you'll get that right, Gia?
But we have to do this while standing, right, Heleen? Or
You can stand or you can sit. What also
okay.
helps is if you cross over your legs as well. It doesn't matter to what side, just cross over your legs. It just comes to, because remember, we call it modalities. Our eyes, ears, hands, feet work out of the opposite side of the brain. So if we do some crossover things, it just like wakes up that part, because then that part of the brain must work as well. And then obviously the breathing helps to slow down the heartbeat.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. That's one thing that I actually recommend in every of my session. In fact, I begin with every single class of mine with a 5-minute meditation, because it helps you gather your thoughts and like begin with a few, really.
That's it. If all teachers can do that, you know, their classes would be just so much more effective, because then you will have that whole brain function. And as I say, whether you're left or right brain dominant, you'll have both sides. And then, you know, you can take in the way you're supposed to get the information the best way. So that is wonderful, Ms. Khan. If you do that with your class, that is brilliant.
This is what I do. Heleen, I want to know what are some, what are some strategies that you help people? Because there's when you test people of a brain, try dominant side of the brain. So then do you suggest them that these are the strategies that will help them use the other side even better because they already have a dominant one?
Yeah, I try. So say for instance, you have like a dominance only on one side. Say for instance, you right side dominant. So now all your hand, your eye, your ear, and your feet works out of your left brain. So you actually use your left brain the whole time. So you're actually neglecting that right brain, what is your creative brain. So when I assess, I always say, try and do this. So now, rather than brushing your teeth with your right hand, use your left hand. When you go play outside, don't just kick with your right hand, foot.
Yeah.
Kick with your left foot, you know, so that you get that practice as well. And so we do the assessment, and with each one you can tell, even out of the assessments, we would know if it's a auditory learner or if it's a kinesthetic learner who actually need to move to take in new information. So the genetic brain profiling is actually just such a brilliant thing that people through lots of research got to know.
And the assessment includes, is it a verbal assessment, auditory assessment, or is it some kind of other assessment?
Yeah, so what we do, there's lots of questions that we ask, and then we do physical things like jump over things.
Okay.
So how do you sit when you cross your legs? So we do that as well. And then we also do use kinesiology. So kinesiology, it's just our bodies gives out energy, and we pick up the dominance in when we're doing kinesiology. So we use both like practical practices to assess, as well as lots of questions, because they will say they act like this in this case and that case, and that determines a lot of whether you left brain preference or right brain preference.
Perfect.
Wow. Heleen, I don't know if you can see, but in the chat, there's a bunch of comments and connecting this with yoga and some of the positions that they're doing in yoga. So it's very interesting.
Okay, great stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know yoga. So
I do.
okay, lovely. So I can't comment on the similarities, you know. So
I mean, it's all about awakening different parts of the brain. So there are multiple modalities of it. There are multiple modes of it. There are multiple methods of it. So that's where yoga is one of them.
okay, great stuff. Well, that is wonderful. And yeah, at the end of the day, all this is coming just to give you a bit of some other information about the genetic brain profiling and how we got to test dominance. Us as human beings, first of all, have dominance for survival. Can you imagine if you have to run away and both the feet wants to start running at the same time? You know, that's why one will have the dominance. So that is where it started. And the same is with the dominance of our ears, for example. Usually, and especially with kids, with adults, it changes a bit depending on whether you're married and your sleeping preferences. But usually you can see with kids, naturally when they sleep and they're comfortable, they sleep with a dominant ear on the top for survival, to hear if something is wrong. So this is very, very interesting, yeah, with how the body works to help you to be the best you can be.
Interesting.
This was not about doing yoga. The mudras are basically in the hands.
Hands.
You use these. I have sent you the link. It will show you what kind of mudra. Mudras are basically positions. Say something like this, something like this. Then how do you do this? And there are so many different types of mudras which activate the brain. So one which I shared you works on your right side and the left side of the brain. So you can go through that link which I have shared in the chat. It has a video and it also shows you how to do it.
Wow, so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely, I'm always very eager, being a right brainer myself, very eager for new information and new things, because at the end of the day, if we know what's happening with you and we can help people and teach them to do some different exercises and practices to help them to be the best they can be, especially these days, you know, with all of us going through COVID and all the challenges that we're not used to have, you know. It's like, and I feel very sorry, especially for those left brainers. It's very hard for them to just suddenly have to do things in another way. Obviously, they had no choice to adapt, but it was very hard for them to adapt because they like the same process and the procedures and the same routine. That's where they're comfortable at. While the right brainers, they can just chop and change. But, you know, but it's amazing how both sides have different abilities. And at the end of the day, if we can access both. So to give you this example, what can happen is, say for instance, I had a long day, I'm tired, now I need to do a presentation or I see a client, and being right brain dominant, the first thing that will shut down is my left side. So now I want to talk and now suddenly I just lose a word. It's like I can't remember in English what is this word. And as soon as you just say, hello, left brain, I need the word, it's like consciously you're telling that side of the brain that you need it and it responds. So the same as when we do something like with inventing, what this is all about is before you start, actually consciously sit down and say, left brain, right brain, you be awake. I need both your sides so that I can be the best inventor that I can be.
Wow.
Great.
This is something new from me. Thank you everyone for sharing.
Thank you, guys. Is there any other questions? I just read here in the comments. I think somebody is here, so maybe it's one of the next.
No, this is fine. Gia, we have a few more minutes. Do you have any questions or comments, Gia?
Lovely. Any other questions?
Okay, here our friend Jake, without knowing, he is performing a mudra, which is called as the Cronj mudra. This is supposed to be very, very powerful in improving the sound. Without knowing, unconscious.
In fact, Heleen, I would really, because since you're talking about this, there's some exercise that I do with my students, in fact, with my adult class as well. So it's like doing multiple things with both hands. I mean, if you just, push it down like this and you just do it. I mean, I'm sure this is how it is. So it's like doing multiple exercises while we do it with both hands. So I'll share a short video with you people. So you can definitely show that to people, and you can help people use both sides of the brain.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. That is amazing. Thank you for all your information. I will definitely have a look into it, because that at the end of the day, we want to help our kids to cope with a lot of things. We even want to help us as adults to cope with a lot of things. And if we can use all this knowledge from different people, from different countries, that's coming a long way. If we can use this, then obviously that would be great, because we can just better ourselves and just make life easier for ourselves than just getting into a really bad situation.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was very interesting.
So much, Heleen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Heleen.
I'll see you guys later.
Okay.